Chocolate? Chocolate! Chocolate!
Hello everybody, Chocolate Guy here, and welcome back to another Hey Arnold episode review. In this video, we're going to talk about a very popular episode of the show, that being Stoop Kid. So like last time, this was an episode I knew I wanted to talk about immediately. Because not only is it an interesting episode that has a very positive reception, and both these things give me an amount to talk about on their own, but I also wanted to use this video to explain myself. Because with this episode being as popular as it is, it still didn't make my Season 1 list or the honorable mentions. So you can probably assume I personally don't love this episode, but I've never actually shared my full thoughts, and I have a lot of them. So with this series of videos, there's no better time than the present. I really have nothing else to say to set this review up. If you want to know my very different thoughts on this beloved episode, then let's jump right into the review. To start this review, I'll say that I like the first chunk of this episode quite a bit. I think the legend of Stoop Kid is really cool, and I like the scene where Gerald tells this story. This is always a fun part of Hey Arnold Legend stories, and this episode has particular fun with it, setting up a cool mystery around who exactly Stoop Kid is and what his deal is. I also think the plot of the first part of this episode, centering around Arnold scouting, waiting for the right chance to take his ball back, was a good choice. It really puts you in a childlike mood of wanting something like a football bat from a bigger, meaner bully. But through this, we use it to learn a little bit more about Stoop Kid and how he operates, through seeing him on his stoop, and the moment where Arnold puts the pieces together and actually takes the logic of Stoop Kid not leaving his stoop very literally and in a smart way to get his ball back is cool because of how it's set up. And the aftermath of Stoop Kid getting humiliated seems like it would lead us to learn more about him and why he is in the situation he is in and why he acts the way he does. But that's not exactly what happens, and this is where the episode kinda loses me. I don't like much after this point, for the simple reason that I think this episode is really confused on what it wants to do. On the one hand, it wants to be this Legends episode with a weird character that has an interesting gimmick, but it also wants to be a character-driven story about overcoming your fears. And these two things really don't work well together, at least in this episode. Look, in Season 1, Pigeon Man manages to tell a serious story that tackles interesting things, such as someone's lost faith in humanity, which is extremely heavy, but done in an amazing way while really developing its characters. At the same time, Pigeon Man is a character with a legend around him and an interesting gimmick. And that episode handles both ends great, and creates one of the best episodes of the show. So there's no reason why Stoop Kid couldn't succeed at doing both things as well, but I'll just come out and say it. I don't think either element of the story has really any teeth to it. Stoop Kid is an underdeveloped character from a logic standpoint on how he lives his life, but also just as a normal character in general. So when this episode tries to tell this inspiring story about him overcoming his fears with Arnold's help, I have a hard time caring about what happens to him or if he succeeds or not. So this part of the episode is kind of dull, and I don't think any of the gags really work here either. We just don't learn enough about Stoop Kid or his circumstances that lead him to be this outcast who never leaves his stoop to make any sense of it, or to make him an interesting character I want to root for. We really don't even get enough information to connect the dots. I'm not even quite sure why he is mean, whether it's because of his upbringing, or there's just no reason and he is just a jerk for the sake of being a jerk. And I guess I could come to my own conclusion on this point, but why would I have to do that for something that is so crucial to Stoop Kid being a likable character you want to root for in the story? This makes the episode even harder to get into. I will say, a positive I have for this part of the episode is Arnold's characterization here is really good. He's been alright so far in the show, and is used to do interesting things like in Arnold's hat, but this is the first episode that really feels like the Arnold throughout most of the show, but especially the rest of season 1. He feels like a real kid, but is also just really invested in helping people, even if he doesn't quite understand them or they don't deserve it. But he tries so hard. This episode isn't engaging for the reasons I've said, but Arnold is so likable here, and he cares so much that I want to care as well. But it just isn't enough. Look, I know some people do find the story really inspiring, and think Stoop Kid is this great iconic character, and find the little we do learn about him more interesting than I do, and either think that's enough to make him interesting and likable, or frankly don't care about how much is actually explored about him, and are just engaged because they think the story on its own is that good, or maybe see something deeper here involving Stoop Kid that I just don't. And to those people, that's great. That is a popular opinion that I completely understand, but I'm gonna stop dancing around this and just outwardly say I don't like this episode. I never have. Its popularity always eluded me because when I first watched this episode, I hated it. But I've always wanted to like it because so many people talk so fondly of this episode, and it makes me want to enjoy this one as well. But each time I'm left with the same core issues. Stoop Kid being underdeveloped does hurt the story in my eyes, and I just don't find it interesting because of that. And I don't see anything that deep because this character is so poorly defined. Even though this episode has grown on me over the years, where now I do like parts of the episode and appreciate what I think they were trying to accomplish, and at least I finally get why someone would like this episode, I still don't like it personally. The reason my worst episodes of Hey Arnold seasons 1 through 3 list fell apart and never happened was because of a few things, but the biggest one was because this episode at the time made the list, and I just had no idea how to approach it. And that's because I wanted to like it, but also because I realized it really didn't deserve to be there, because of its positive elements. I was over-hating it, but that doesn't change the fact to this day I think people overrate this one, because Stoop Kid and his story is just so underdeveloped, and the ending sequence does nothing for me for this reason. And even if it does something for you, I think the actual ending really undermines everything else in the episode. Why did we watch an episode of Arnold helping this kid just for him to turn around and admit he is going to harass people? Even if this is just an ending gag, it isn't funny. It's just a sour note to end the episode on, no matter what Stoop Kid's characterization is. And even if you were invested in Stoop Kid's story the first time, why would you care when he turns out to be a creep who just wants to harass people? And look, Harold is one thing, but what happens when it's someone who doesn't deserve it? Which Stoop Kid threatened to do when he was too afraid to leave his stoop. Look, I get what this episode wanted to do. It wanted to combine different plot types while making Stoop Kid a multi-layered character, but they fail at this, making this just a confusing and unsatisfying watch through and through. So, with all that said, do I still think this is a bad episode? Honestly, going into this review, I was going to say yes. But as I wrote this, I realized I do like a little under half of this episode, and the rest of it truly isn't that bad. You could do a lot worse, especially as far as the show is concerned. So, I think it is on the lower end of okay. It's a weaker episode of the season in my eyes, and I do think it's overrated, but I get why people like it, and there are worse episodes, including Eugene's Bike, which I never thought I'd be saying, but here we are. This will always be one of my personal least favorites, because it's an episode I really don't enjoy, and that fact kind of infuriates me. Because everyone else seems to love it, and I think the episode is also an annoying one because it had so much potential to be great with how Pigeon Man turned out. But all of that is more of a me thing and a personal opinion, and if I'm judging the episode based on overall enjoyment and no biases from any outside sources, this episode is fine. To end this review, I will say, even if you like it though, I don't get how you can call it one of the best of the series or even season 1. There are so many great episodes, and episodes I believe to be much better than this, including the episode before it, Arnold's Hat, which we talked about last time, and the episode immediately after, which we will talk about next time, that being Helga's Makeover. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe for more content similar to this in the future. Comment down below on what you thought of the review and what your own thoughts on Stoop Kid are. And tell me if you do enjoy the episode, if you think I explained myself well, or if you just think my opinions on this episode are awful and I'm crazy. Also, leave a comment telling me any Hey Arnold Seasons 2 through 3 episodes you would like me to review. I've already picked out the 11 others from Season 1 I want to talk about before posting my Season 4 list, but haven't decided on the episodes from Season 2 and 3 to make reviews on. But with all that said, until next time, this is Chocolate Guy, signing off.